We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, family. Thank you for joining us. You are watching the Couples Academy Show. My name is Roland.
And I'm Gonzalez.
And we're your practitioners here at the Couples Academy Show. And we've been talking about some very interesting topic all month. And we've been talking about separation and divorce, the separation and divorce series. And so we're going to continue on that path for this month. As we're going into the holidays, believe it or not, so many people are vacillating between should I stay, should I go, should I stay, should I go? And oftentimes, unfortunately, they decide to go. And we don't understand the impact that it has on our families, on our finances, on our families. And so we're going to be diving into that on this week as we continue on this. Before we do that, I want you to like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Let everyone know that you are watching the Couples Academy Show, and we are here for you. How was your weekend, Mr. Gonzalez?
The weekend was very well. Little dragging, but restless. But needless to say, we are here.
Great, man. It's happy to see you and happy to have you on the show with us this morning. So let's dive into what we're talking about this week. We're talking about the financial impact of divorce. The financial impact of divorce. Now, we've been talking about this for the last several weeks and how much divorce is cost and how it affects the family, how it affects the finances, and how it affects our friends. But the bottom line is divorce costs so much money that we don't take into account and take into consideration. When we talking about divorcing, I'm just tired of this person. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm just going to get a divorce. We don't take into account all of the stipulations that come with that and the impact that it has. Statistics says that it costs $28,000 on average. $28,000 on average. This was in 2021 by the knot. $28,000 on average for a wedding. So we spent $28,000 for a wedding to say till death do us part. We're going to be together forever, and then we go down the line a few years later, and now it costs $15,000 per person. $15,000 per person to get a divorce, and that can go up to $100,000 depending on how complicated the situation is and how much assets you have and how much debt you have. It can go up to $100,000. So in other words, if obviously numbers don't lie, it will cost you more money to divorce than it did for you to say I do. So you're going to pay for saying I don't more than you will pay for saying I do. Absolutely. How crazy is that? So we want to take into consideration the craziest thing when we're talking about divorce. Obviously, we are here in divorce prevention. That's what our job is, because whether we say we're going to get a divorce because I just don't like this person anymore, or, we have irreconcilable differences, these things can be worked out. It can be worked out. And sometimes we understand that divorce is unavoidable in situations of abuse, physical abuse, or situations of any type of harm or danger that may be brought onto your spouse, man or woman, because a lot of times we think it's just women that are being abused, but a lot of times, unfortunately, and it's a silent killer, that men are being abused as well. And so when we find these situations, obviously these situations are situations where divorce is unavoidable. But when it is avoidable, we have to take the necessary steps. We have to take the necessary tools and find those resources that can help like Couples Academy to prevent divorce from happening. We've seen many times people come to something like a last chance weekend, or they reach out for help in an intensive with divorce papers in their hand. And by the time we finish, by the time we've poured into them, by the time we've given tools and strategies of a way out, they have found themselves back in and all in to get the work done to stay together. Gonzalez, have you found that to be the case in your situations with your clients?
Absolutely. You'll get emergency calls. You'll get, what I would say, um, brain freeze, forgive me, moments where people are vacillating all year long. And then all of a sudden at the end of the year, instead of getting the help within the 12 months, they want to wait and sit on these issues that they've been sitting on for years. Where they could avoided all that and got help. You know what I mean? There is help and hope. And a lot of times people don't see that there's help and hope where you can be restored through this problem. You can be restored through your issues. You can make it through and overcome the situations, because I am a living witness. I know people that, went through the process and became successful through their marriages because they got help. But to sit on these numbers, whether the wedding was $3,000, you went to the justice of peace, but $28,000, that's a lot of money. When you're going through the divorce, $15,000 per person, as much as you paid to get married. And then it goes up to $100,000. That's a lot of money. A lot of times people don't want to invest in the recovery to avoid these large numbers, man. So when they call Couples Academy, they do get a fix. They do find happiness and restoration inside of that. So you got it.
Absolutely, man. There was a study from 2004 to 2014 that showed that women over 50, women that got a divorce over 50, they lost 45% of their standard living. So a woman over 50 and her standard way of living, her lifestyle, she lost 45% of that, while men lost 21% of their standard way of living. It's going to cost us more to be apart than it is to work it out and be together. And obviously, when we get married, we didn't marry somebody off the street that we just met or somebody that we didn't like. We met someone that we thought was compatible, that we spent time with, that we enjoyed spending time with. And during time, we got off. Something got off. Life began to happen. We begin to work long hours. We began to have kids and different things like that. Our responsibilities grew, but our love for one another kind of drifted away, and we just need help finding our way back to love. So we're gonna go to a commercial break, and we're gonna dive into this, the financial impact of divorce. On the other side, you're watching the Couples Academy show. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
welcome back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. I am Roland, and I have my man Gonzalez with us this morning, and we're talking about the financial impact of divorce. I do want to read this one comment that Jules said, and she said, "We know someone who paid about $40,000 for the divorce, had to sell the home, paying $1,800 a month in support, and has to drive to another state every other month just to see their child." Like, that is crazy. When you're talking about the amount of money that it costs to do this, you are literally restructuring your whole life. Everything that you worked for literally is going down the drain. Or in the case of divorce, you're literally investing in the wrong direction. Right? So you want to get the help that you need ahead of time. You want to be preventative as opposed to being reactive to how you're feeling, so that way you're not having to invest all of this money in the wrong direction. So we're talking about the financial impact of divorce, and the first one that we want to go to is financial assets. Financial assets. So when we're thinking about financial assets, we're talking about everything that you have built together, everything that you have worked so hard for, and you have to understand that when you're considering divorce, now it takes into place everything that we've built now has to be split in two. And depending on which state you live in, it can go three-fourths, it can go, you know, all or nothing. They have different rules, consequences, and stipulations. So that's another key factor that is never taken into consideration when we're talking about divorce. We'll say, well, I just want to leave. I just want a divorce. You take half, I'm going to take half. Well, in some cases, it doesn't work like that. If I had property before I met you, and then you acquired property after we got married, you have to take that into consideration. How is that going to be split? What does that look like? And depending on what state you're in and what judge you have, and definitely what lawyer you have to even know the rules, you're going to find yourself in a situation that your financial assets that you've built together literally can be out of the window, all of it. And so we have to understand that division is a real thing. And it's not always 50-50. We can say, well, we're going to go 50-50 on this marriage. And it sounds cute, but reality is, depending on where you live, that's not a real thing. And so when we're talking about financial assets, look at this. We want to consider financial assets as bank accounts. We're talking about stocks. We're talking about bonds, mutual funds, retirement plans, stock options, pensions, life insurance, the money we have under the mattress and in the wall. We're talking about everything that is financial. And when we consider all of these things, we have to take into consideration, what does that look like? So we have bank accounts, and some marriages have more than one bank account. Well, if you get divorced, whatever is in the bank has to be separated. Now, we've talked in times past, one of our financial practitioners who has worked for the bank for a long time, she shared with us that when these couples have bank accounts and one person's name is on the bank account and that person passes away, the living spouse has no access to that money. They have, because their name is not on the account, and they can have millions of dollars in it. It doesn't matter. If your name is not on the account, you don't have access to it. Likewise, if you have money in the bank and you all decide to get a divorce, then that means that everything that's in the bank is going to be split 50-50. You get your half, I'm going to get my half.
Growing up, I remember hearing a story that the father had passed away, and even though you knew that this couple was together forever, Nobody knew except for the family in that household, and the immediate family knew that they weren't married legally. So when he died, the mother could not get anything because she was not married to him. So she couldn't obtain any assets because of that legal name. And it's just like, there's a lot that goes into that. But as you was talking in reference to everything that's being acquired, along the way, there's a shaky foundation. And what happens is, as we go through the process of not only divorce, not only through the marriage, the whole time that we're talking in the segment, we never mention God. When we get away from God, we get away from the principles of marriage. That God hates divorce. God hates divorce. And what that says is that he despises everything that we do that affects the marriage. We create as individuals an emotional and marital infectious disease, and it becomes decayed, that we go to this latter part of our lives of the investment of emotional tormenting rather than the restoration and building on the cracks of the foundation. And if that foundation is fallen, then it's time to move and to establish another foundation to avoid the pitfalls that we're in. Because if we acquire help and get it in the necessary time, then there should be no reason why we should have this conversation. So when we remove God, we remove the foundation that is needed to get the help that we need. That's why God has put Couples Academy as visionaries to help couples in crisis.
Yeah, that's an absolutely great point when you're talking about the spiritual overhead of the marriages. And when we get away from that, when we move ourselves from underneath the umbrella of our covering, then we find ourselves paying the price and the cost for doing so. And a lot of times in the social media age, we are running after everything but God. We're running after everything but the man, the higher power that has put us together. And when you do that, you're going to pay a pretty penny for it. And so when we're talking about the impact of divorce, we're talking about the cost of divorce, we're talking about the amount that has to be paid, because we talk about financial assets, but financial assets, it also affects the children. It also affects the family. It also affects the lifestyle of the family. So you can have all the money in the world. Don't think that it won't affect how your children live, their lifestyle. So now you go from, we talk about rags to riches, but then you talk about riches, maybe perhaps rags. And that's the price that you're willing to risk and the price that you're willing to pay when we go outside of doing things that we need to do to get the help that we need. And the fact of the matter is, we have to be mature enough to understand when we need help. We have to be mature enough to understand when we need to seek out help to get what we need. Otherwise, we are going to pay a cost for that is much more substantial than it has to be. When we invest in ourselves, when we invest in our marriages, we get the benefits and reap the rewards of that investment because we know that it has a good return on it. And so we're talking about financial assets. And I want to look at this again because we talked about bank accounts. But when you consider stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, these things, as we know, are substantial amounts of money that is sitting and waiting for us to be used. So when we talk about stocks go up and down. You can benefit tremendously off of stocks. We can benefit tremendously off of bonds and mutual funds. We have those for our children. And so when we consider divorce, when we consider talking about we are going to go a different route, then we have to take all of that into consideration. We cannot talk about legacy and leaving a legacy while at the same time talking about division or divorce. Because when you talk about legacy, you're breaking off the legacy that you're trying to establish by being selfish in divorce because you can't get along, or because you don't want to put the investment in getting it right, or because you don't want to put the work, the time, money, and effort to fall back in love again, or to get the help you need from a third party to fall back in love again. So oftentimes we've seen it time and time again where men feel like, I don't need counseling. I can fix myself. I don't need anybody else to tell me what to do. Women find themselves on the fence because I just can't trust another person telling me what to do. Even if they were the offender, they don't want to get the help that they need, not considering the amount that it's going to cost to stay in the state that they're in. So even if they said, we're not going to get a divorce, and they stayed together, but they stayed together miserably, that costs just as much as getting the divorce, when in all actuality, you could take that same miserable investment that you're making selfishly, put it back into your marriage, and reap the benefits and the rewards of your investment. So we have couples that come, we have couples that they're on the verge and say, you know what, I just can't take it anymore. I'm just going to give it all up. I am done with this relationship. I am done with this marriage. I am done with him. I am done with her, without giving the opportunity for someone to come in and help. We'll much rather go and say, well, I'm just done, not realizing the financial cost, the financial impact that having a divorce is going to have on the marriage and also on the children. So let's reconsider what we think about divorce, and let's look at some things that will help us, that financial assets can be wasted. Like literally everything that you worked for can literally be gone within a matter of making a decision, because we want what we want and don't want to invest in one another. So we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to go to a quick commercial, and we will be right back. Well, welcome back, folks. Welcome back. You are watching the Couples Academy show. Yes, you just saw the commercial for Last Chance Weekend. Last Chance Weekend, we just had our last one for the year 2022. And if you are in crisis and feel like you are on your last chance, our next one is January 13th through the 15th. And I would highly recommend, highly suggest the investment that you're going to make in changing the life of your marriage. If your marriage is need to be resuscitated, I would suggest to you that you sign up, call us, reach out, make the discovery call for your last chance weekend. Get in where you fit in and do the work that you need to do to save your marriage. Give it one last shot, and last chance weekend is that weekend for you. So we're talking about the financial impact of divorce, and we're talking about financial assets. We're going to close out um, our last few minutes talking about retirement plans, stock options, pensions, life insurance. When we're considering financial assets, we have to take all of these things into consideration. It's not just I'm gonna take half of the furniture, my bedroom set, because I paid for it, and you're gonna take the sofa because you paid for it. No, no, sir, no, ma'am. We're talking about everything in between: bank accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, retirement plans, stock options, pensions, life insurance. We're talking about everything financial. And so I was reading, and it states that if you're depending on what state you're in, because we figure, oh, we've been married for X amount of years, and I'm going to get half of his retirement. I'm going to get half of her retirement. Not so fast. Just like you research that person when you are recording, you need to do some research for the state that you live in as well. Because if you think you're going to get half of the pension, half of the retirement, it doesn't always happen like that. In some states, it states that if you were working a job before you got married, then depending on that state, your spouse that you married into does not have the rights to your retirement, or not full retirement. In other words, they would only get a portion of it, perhaps maybe from the time that you all were married and that person was working, or a percentage of the overall amount. So we have to consider the fact that if you think you're going to live in luxury on a lottery ticket of my spouse when we get a divorce, that is not always the case. And so we want to jump the gun a lot of times, and we're going to get a divorce thinking that's going to be our meal ticket for the rest of our lives, because we're going to get half the bank account, we're going to get the pension, we're going to get the retirement plan. That's not that. You have to consider all things when you're considering doing a divorce. Again, we understand that divorce is going to cost more to say I don't than it does to say I do. And we have to consider all things when we're doing that. Do you have any final words, Gonzalez, relating to this financial asset of the impact of divorce?
Bottom line, this is what we got to do. We got to invest staying together. So basically, what we got to do as a whole, do not carry anything that you have carried thus far from 22 into 23. If you do, you'll have more of the same. And the thing about it is, if you want to continue to bear fruit, bad fruit rather than good, sweet, tasty fruit, it's best to invest. So invest in your marriage rather than the divorce. There's a lot of options and a lot of things to think about, because at the end of the day, if you're willing to invest in your divorce, it's better to invest in your marriage. First and foremost, if you don't try all that you can try, but the thing about it is, we need help. We all do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, you've been watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about the financial impact of divorce. This is only day one, and we talked about financial assets. We're going to dive a little deeper the rest of the week, going into the new year, talking about this so that we reconsider those things and get the help that we need. So we'll see you on the other side. Talk to you on tomorrow. Have a great day.